Hello everyone, my name is Namrata Mishra and today's topic is System Requirement Specification. A system requirement specification, also known as a software requirement specification, is a document or set of documentation that describes the features and behavior of a system or software application. It includes a variety of elements that attempts to define the intended functionality required by the customer to satisfy their different users. The image is shown below. Main elements. Depending on the methodology employed, the level of formality and detail in the SRS will vary, but in general, an SRS should include a description of the functional requirements, system requirements, technical requirements, constraints, assumptions, and acceptance criteria. Each of these is described in more detail in the next slides. Business drivers. This section describes the reasons why the customer is looking to build a system. The rationale for the new system is important as it will guide the decisions made by the business analysts, system architects, and developers. Another compelling reason for documenting the business rationale behind the system is that the customer may change personnel during the project. Documentation which clearly identifies the business reasons for the system will help sustain support for a project if the original sponsor moves on. The image is clearly shown below, in which project drivers, current problems, future opportunities, and motivations is given. Now, it may include both problems, reasons why the current systems or processes are not sufficient, and opportunities, new business models that the system will make available. Usually a combination of problems and opportunities are needed to provide motivation for a new system. Business model. This section describes the underlying business model of the customer that the system will need to support. This includes such items as the organizational context, current state, and future state diagrams, business context, key business functions, and process flow diagrams. This section is usually created during the functional analysis phase. Functional and system requirements. This section usually consists of a hierarchical organization of requirements with the business or functional requirements at the highest level and the detailed system requirements listed as their child items. Generally, the requirements are written as statements such as system needs the ability to do X with supporting detail and information included as necessary. Business and system use cases. This section usually consists of a UML use case diagram that illustrates the main external entities that will be interacting with the system together with the different use cases that they will need to carry out. For each use case, there will be formal definition of the steps that need to be carried out to perform the business objective together with any necessary preconditions and post-conditions. The business use cases are usually derived from the functional requirements and the system use cases are usually derived from the system requirements. Technical requirements. This section is used to list any of the non-functional requirements that essentially embody the technical environment that the product needs to operate in and include the technical constraints that it needs to operate under. These technical requirements are critical in determining how the higher level functional requirements will get decomposed into the more specific system requirements. System qualities. This section is used to describe the non-functional requirements that define the quality of the system. These items are often known as the LITs because most of them end in LIT. They included such items as reliability, availability, serviceability, security, scalability, maintainability. Unlike the functional requirements, which are usually narrative in form, the system qualities usually consist of tables of specific metrics that the system must meet to be accepted. This section will outline any design constraints that have been imposed on the design of the system by the customer, thereby removing certain options from being considered by the developers. Also, this section will contain any assumptions that have been made by the requirements engineering team when gathering and analyzing the requirements. If any of the assumptions are found to be false, the system requirements specification would need to be re-evaluated to make sure that the documented requirements are still valid. Acceptance criteria. This section will describe the criteria by which the customer will sign off on the final system. Depending on the methodology, this may happen at the end of the testing and quality assurance phase or in an agile methodology at the end of each iteration. The criteria will usually refer to the need of complete all user acceptance test and the rectification of all defects or bugs that meet a predetermined priority or severity threshold. Alternatives. In agile methodologies such as extreme programming or Scrum formal, static documentation such as software requirements specification are usually eschewed in favor of more lightweight documentation of the requirements, namely by means of user stories and acceptance tests. This approach requires that the customer is easily accessible to provide clarification on the requirements during development and also assumes that the team members responsible for writing the user stories with the customer will be the developers building the system. A more formal approach may be needed if the customer is inaccessible and or a separate team of business analysts will be developing the requirements. In rapid application development, methodologies such as DSDM or unified process, the requirements specification is often kept at a higher level, with much of the detailed requirements embodied in prototypes and mock-ups of the planned system. These prototypes are a more visual way to represent the requirements and help the customer more easily comprehend what is planned and therefore provide more timely feedback. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much.